We have the lovely Tiffany Smith.
Yeah! Hell yeah!
Artist. And I'm going to leave it up to her to tell you what she does.
Much great films made. Gosh, I'm glad Mom done my work. I feel comfortable being a little more relaxed and like less formal in this conversation now. So I'll probably ramble at some point. Anyway, so as an artist, I'm an interdisciplinary artist, and I work with photography and video and installation. I create portraits and images and experiences that focus on subjectivities of people of color, particularly women, and particularly from the Caribbean diaspora. So I've been working on, or what I chose to focus on in this presentation is primarily this body of self-portrait work I've been working on for the past few years. It's called For Tropical Girls Who Have Considered Ethnogenesis When the Native Son Was Removed. Familiar with. But it also follows her as she goes back to Jamaica for the first time in a really long time, which is where she's from. So it shows her like reconnecting with the environment, with the people, the home spaces. Like she goes back to like her old neighborhood that she lived in and connects with people like from her past, and it really, I think, portrays her in this very like vulnerable light, and I just connected to a lot of the ways of like those experiences. And some of those experiences are definitely, you know, what I use as like a backstory to inform the portraits and the installations of the work that I make. So it's that balance between, like, this work is definitely about creating these like iconic like portraits and you know, trying to find a place for yourself, like, and to represent yourself. And speaking as myself as a person, a woman who's coming from the Caribbean diaspora. So I grew up, my parents are from Jamaica and Trinidad, and I grew up partly between Miami and Nassau, Bahamas. So my whole background and cultural heritage is definitely very blended, and I like operate as feeling home in several different places. And so what I was doing with this series is try to investigate my identity and figure out like how to outwardly represent that, thinking of ways to do that, thinking about how also women of color are often represented with a lack of nuance, even from those sources where it's like self-authored, like from the Black community, even like there's intersectionality there, right? Like we all don't have the same experience. So having these different experiences coming from different places, it can be a little difficult to try to navigate sometimes. So that's what started me trying to break apart.
I know, I'm like
investigate.
I'm so, this is hard.
It's okay. Got it.
You're doing fine.
Brief pause for the.
Come on in.
That's very scary. You're doing great.
Yeah, so I started from a place where I was creating these portraits, self-portraits, and essentially creating like an ethnographic survey of myself. I was looking at a lot of these turn-of-the-century ethnographic images of women of color and really questioning the gaze that was present and how much agency the subjects had over representing themselves. So then I used this language and reinterpreted it into like a more contemporary language and one that I can relate to my own personal history, and use this as a device to begin making these portraits. In the beginning, they're all titled studies, which is referencing the way that they were often labeled in this like postcard format. Yes, and this image in particular is one of the ones I really aimed to try to replicate the pose and the gaze of the subject itself, replicate that in the image. And then as it continued on, the images, the portraits start to become more personally narrative and informed by my own experience. This image, Perpetual Tourist, is like a memory of me coming to the United States when I was 9. I moved here. That's like what's informing this image. And yeah, I just wanted to represent like that passage. The image in the back is from a postcard that's been photoshopped, a vintage postcard of Florida. That's a 7-mile bridge that connects Florida to the rest of the Florida Keys to the rest of Florida. So it's this point. It's this large point of water, of like separation, and it to me sort of all the water in it represents the trail and the pathways that people often take, particularly to get into the country, particularly in that region in South Florida. A lot of people immigrate, through the Caribbean, and yeah, some people come across the water. Yeah, this also is informed by memories of me like going back to the islands and getting really sunburned when I go out, because I think like I got really pasty since I moved here to New York, like not in the sun ever. So, and then for me, it's a little faded on the screen, but I tried to really make the red skin color like really uncomfortably intense, and try to demarcate that like bikini tan line, which living in a place like Miami and Miami Beach, it's like a definite marker of a tourist, because locals who are just in the sun all the time, or you're just on top of it. So it's little things like that I try to bring into the language of what I'm trying to tell within the stories I'm trying to tell within the images. This is a projection of the future. This is my portrait of my future self. This is taken at Mosaic Project when I was in residence there in good old Luther Barn. Shout out. Shout out Luther Barn. This is my my attempt at minimalism. And this is the most recent image I did in the series that I did earlier last year. It's called Field Notes for Planting Seeds in Uprooted Gardens. I think this one is just they're getting a little more personally intense, a little more personal. This one is definitely more intense. I guess I'll say short, just feeling like very under attack as a woman and a woman of color in this present administration. So in addition to creating the images and portraits, I also take the images and place them within these installation projects. I've been working on these different installation projects that present the images and the videos within them. Also in some cases, like in this particular installation, include some degree of interactivity. But this one I had like a photo booth in there where viewers could go and sit in there and photograph themselves within it. I've done other projects where I set up a temporary photo booth and then photograph people also. So I'm trying to incorporate that practice into the presentation of these installations. It's a closer view of the photo booth. This is a close-up this is a series of images that I did of other women called Woman Phenomenon, along the same terms in which I'm doing my self-portraits. What I really liked about this also is it first gave me the opportunity to work with really having a conversation with the community. Like most of the so it's a mix of real and fake plants in here. And all of the real plants, like the ones with the fruit, I guess maybe you can't tell off the bat which are real and which are fake, especially from the picture. But anyway, a bunch of them are actually real, and I borrowed them from someone in the community. This is in Newburgh, New York. A new friend, Dave, he was so sweet, Dave the plant man, gave me all these wonderful plants. He like named them all too, like all of them. Each had a name. I remember like that tall, that was Psy. I don't know why I remember that. Anyway, David lent me all his wonderful plants, and it was actually better for them to be indoors and in the sun in those conditions. So yeah, I enjoyed doing that, and I took that into, at the same time I was doing the solo exhibition at Mosaic Project. So that was interesting for me also, because it was like these exhibitions happened at the same time. and they're kind of like across the Hudson River and have like a different demographic of people within the community. So I broke it up in a way where I presented like the self-portrait work at Passaic and the other portraits over at Space Create in Newburgh. That was just, I have reasons, but that's why I chose. That's what I did. So this project at Passaic developed into a whole presentation of just the self-portrait images and video. I also created this wonderful sign. Well, there was a Passaic resident named Yael. I don't know if anybody, well, whatever. I don't know if everybody here is from Passaic right now, but she also went to grad school with me and was in residence at Passaic at the time and very wonderfully helped me hand paint this entire sign. She really came through on that one. So it's like, I have this great idea in the final hour, which is, I always like to bring in references that I'm like really into and obsessed with that reference life in the Caribbean, particularly as it relates to, more often as it relates to the home space and like nature and things that happen in nature. But this in particular, this sign is this is the kind of signs that it's referencing, which are. They pop up around, like people just make these makeshift hand-painted signs. They're like advertisements for dance halls. And yeah, and they pop up around, and actually my friend's mother, Maxine Walters, made this really wonderful book. She's been collecting these for like 20 years, and she made a really wonderful book called Serious Things Like a Hotline, which is a collection of all of these signs. Anyway, another thing I'm really obsessed with made it in there. Yeah, so then in this presentation I also had the opportunity to make this my plant fountain, this big thing in the middle, which I call my decolonized fountain of fleeting youth. I saw this space as kind of like a grotto, and I wanted this fountain to be sort of like the entrance to a space. So again, it's coming from like memories that I have. I felt like that aesthetic was very Miami. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Vizcaya in Miami.
Yes.
That's what I had. Yeah, like in my head there, and like all the fountains and these like grand entrances type of thing. But I was again able to incorporate borrowing some plants from the community. A lot of these live plants came from Jenny Morris, who used to work with the Wasaic Project, adopted her plants into the installation. And then the live plants that I had bought to place in there, I ended up donating out into the community when I was done. I also really loved making these mesh vinyl things to cover the doorway, these images. They're printed with images, again, from postcards, vintage postcards from Miami, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. And I left them sort of intentionally ambiguous. And I wanted them to converse with the environment in this way that I knew that because of the lighting and because it's printed on mesh vinyl, there'd be, as throughout the day it changes the view of what you see and blends like the inside and outside environment. Also, this is like in the dead of winter, so I had that in mind also. So all in all, I made this really like warm, inviting place in the middle of winter, which was sort of my intention. And then I recently remounted this again at a solo show this past fall at Montserrat College of Art in Beverly, Massachusetts. And again, got to restage it with having a conversation with the community. I got a lot of people like really responded well and donated a lot of plants to me, which I put in there. And then vice versa, we gave some out, at the closing. I have some that made it back all the way from there. It's now in my collection. Yeah, so I enjoy continuing to work with this language that refers to domestic and home spaces within the Caribbean, particularly things like the decorative concrete block patterns is another thing I'm obsessed with. Designing like the wallpaper patterns in the back. I enjoyed, transforming the space, and I guess I see it as a way to kind of create a safe space and an environment then in which these subjectivities can be considered. So that's what I've been doing. Hold on. Okay. So, in relation to the film, segue, one of the things I really enjoy about the film is the way that it presents all of these like views and visions.
I'm allowed to talk about Jamaica.
Yeah, it presents all these different parts and views of Jamaica and the island. Like, it's obviously, it's a documentary, so they're trying to describe the space she's going to. But it has some of these really nice moments. The first one that I highlighted here, they're capturing sounds of tree frogs that play. Well, they come out and sing at night in Jamaica. It's something that I've incorporated into. Come on, man. I know. I just want to move this a little bit.
If you click play and then move it over to no, click the play down below. I would click pause on that.
Honestly, that was me last talk. I had the same experience.
Technology, man.
Yep, Google.
Okay.
I'm allowed to talk about Jamaica.
Okay, so there's tree frogs. And I've incorporated a recording of those tree frogs into a soundscape that I made that then, I don't know, all these things have built for me over the years. I recorded those tree frogs probably 6 years ago when I was on a trip to Jamaica, and I didn't know what I was doing with it at the time, and only up until a couple years ago I finally made it into a piece, and I started building. I made this soundscape to make this very meditative and calming experience. So the soundscape mixes the tree frog sounds and sounds of rain, and then sounds of drumming, like Rasta and Ibingi drumming, and then they do a chant. So I put together here this little clip which shows how they use those sounds within the movie, and then I also really love how Grace Jones throughout the film just slips into the patois accent. She just slips very seamlessly into all these different accents, which I think is really wonderful. I think what I love about the film is that it allows her the space and it shows this character as a whole, fully developed person, which is, for the way that people of color are represented, in media, it's sadly to say that's, somebody sort of out of the ordinary. Is that a 5-minute warning?
5-minute warning.
Well, whatever. We'll give you more time. So, this play right now is goes into the main section of the soundscape play, and I have put it with presented it along with this video in places, and then through here I just put together. On the left is a reel of scenes that play out in the film, and then on the right is a collection of images that I've made over a period of years, going back to the islands and having my experiences there. I just looking at this footage really made me, go back into the archives in my head and realize that I've made all of these same types of images within the home spaces that I occupy there. So a lot of these are around my sister's house that I stay at. It's my sister and my niece cooking roasted breadfruit. If you've never had, is life. It's so good. That we make like that. So those parts of the film really resonated on a deeper level for me, and I think they do a really wonderful job at sort of showing the scene and setting it up in that way. I love the language that's present with all of those little details, architectural details. Even down to I love that she's in a floral print hat, but it's Warhol flowers. She's almost really low key, but still fabulous. nostalgic right now too. I'm planning a trip right now to go back to Jamaica in a few weeks. I haven't been back in a few years, so it's been a while for me to spend time there. So I'm kind of excited about it. Yeah, and then so I included this. This is like the work that I was making before I started making these self-portraits and the other series. And really it's definitely, like basically all those pictures that I was making and going to these visits with my family turned into this series from Foreign. This is my sister and most of her children. There's 2 more after this. This is a few years old. This is a number of years old. Like that little one. That happened! This is 18. She's going to be driving me around when I'm down there. This one has a kid. This is my mom with her pet rooster, Kaiser. As one does. But looking back at all this stuff now, I also like see how I've like built how all of these images and looking at these spaces in this way have then have been like footnotes for informing how my portraits get designed, and then the installation projects definitely. These are things that I focus on and the kinds of experiences I'm looking to recreate. So looking at these images in this series now definitely feels like field notes and stuff. This is one of the first self-portraits that I did in this way. I really wasn't into doing self-portraits before this series, so it was definitely like a challenge to get there. How far we've come. Okay, I put together here just a couple clips I really love about the film. Oh man, no,
It'll
wait.
load.
No, wait, this one before. So this one is like, I made this video, Mango Mango, where I literally gorge myself on mangoes. But the intent was really to focus on this ritualistic act of like how it is different. Like I would eat a mango differently here than I would like in the island. So I really love this scene, and it shows her like just going in, and again she like effortlessly slips into the patois accent, and it's like, give me that coconut, I don't need no straw, and she just like sucks it, like that's how you would eat it there. It's so good. It is like really good and so much better, like just fresh from the coconut like that. So I just, again, and with this clip also, I just really love the way the film like portrays all of these rituals. This one on the left, she's swimming at a place called the Blue Hole in Jamaica. It's like the Blue Lagoon. It's really, really deep there. It's also like an act of like going back as like not quite a local and not quite a tourist. Like it's definitely like a tourist thing to go and like tourist adventure to go. And it's strange how you have this relationship between like the locals and a tourist engaging with these spaces. The video that's playing on the right is part of a video I made called Bahama Blues, which the beginning part of it shows all of this footage of me like sort of ritualistically like recommuning with the ocean there in Nassau, and then the rest of the video goes through me documenting me going to get my hair braided in the tourist market for the first time ever there, which is another experience. So it's about like this ritualistic like communion with the land, but it's still like different and stilted. Like in Nassau, like nobody goes to the beach like that, especially not that beach. And also that beach is dirty. I filmed like around all the garbage, and I was sort of like conflicted whether to include it in the shots or not. But there is definitely like garbage floating on the beach because it's like a public beach. Like all the resort beaches, they keep nice and pristine and clean. I had a very strange experience this holiday season. I was there going to this like uber wealthy resort called the Albany that like Tiger Woods part owns, And I'm like, what? Like there's like rampant unemployment and like people don't have potable water on the island. But like let's go to like our own private pool, private infinity pool, which I did definitely swim all of it. Yeah, but it was still like a weird experience. And like by the pool they have like little shacks that are importing like conch salad and like tacos, so you could have like authentic street food like while you're there. It's just like the way that these experiences get crafted are just really strange to me. Yeah, we just have a totally different experience. Like so I was there, and Kat and Lauren happened to come down on a cruise. I was like, we're gonna pick you guys up and like show you around, and like we're not going to the pirate museum.
Somehow we walked into it anyway.
We went to use the bathroom, but like they steer those kinds of experiences, and like I don't understand that. Why are you like bringing people to the pirate museum and not like to the National Art Gallery?
Right.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah,
So
a couple more videos. It's fine.
this is the last one. We're gonna end on this and start the film. I just love this.
Oh yeah. She's cool.
So there's my pussy was this.
That's it.
That's the one.
Got in there.
Yes. Oh my god, that was